One of the unique things about the centre here in Bradford-on-Avon is the opportunity to become a monk or nun. But I think this is something a lot of people don't really know that much about, or don't consider it something they could do. You realised it was something you could do when you were 28. Could you talk about your decision to ordain?
Yeah, sure. I was actually 34, but my spiritual journey began around, well, sort of consciously began around the age of 28, which for a lot of people is the time when they really start asking questions. Because they've gone around the track enough times that life has started to show them that it's very unsatisfactory, and that the happiness that they're hoping to realise never really, bears fruit. So then there is a lot of questioning and a lot of experimentation with different ways of thinking, philosophy and theology and theism, and a lot of inquiry goes on until somebody reaches a point where they find a way that suits them. And for me, that was a long journey which involved going to India, trying different meditation techniques, eventually finding Buddhism. I tried Zen, I tried Tibetan Buddhism. For one reason or another, they didn't feel quite right, although meditation definitely did feel right. Eventually I went to a Theravada retreat doing Vipassana insight meditation, and it was on that particular retreat, and this was a lay organisation, so there was no monasticism directly involved with this particular retreat centre, but it was while being on a very intensive 10-day retreat there that just a desire for, well, it wasn't really a desire for monasticism, it was more I could be doing this full time. I could really just give myself, wholeheartedly devote myself to the practice of meditation if I did it full time, and the obvious way to do that was, to my mind, was as a monastic, and as soon as that thought popped into my mind, I couldn't really get rid of it successfully.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was probably 32, 33 at that point, and it wasn't until I was 34 and I'd been around the track one more time. I tried to fit in with life in the round, and still found it deeply unsatisfactory, and there was just a really strong desire to train full time.
Yeah. So what was your so you found the Aukana Trust and had a meeting with Alan?
I found I'd never heard of, not only had I never heard of the Aukana Trust or House of Inner Tranquillity, I hadn't heard of Bradford-on-Avon. I was living in Bristol. And I found the centre online. I found in the Theravada tradition there aren't that many options for monastic training in Britain, but it was more my attraction here was based in my attraction to Alan James, who became my teacher, who was the founder here, because I sensed in him an authenticity that he was speaking from truth, not just hope or good ideas. It was what he was talking about was founded on something really, really true, and that kind of just seemed to emanate from his writing and from listening to a brief excerpt of a talk of his. That's really what attracted me here. So I came to see him, never having had anything to do with the centre at all, ever. It was during the closed period, 2001, the summer closed period, and I came to talk to him about the possibility of full-time training.
It's quite rare in that the monasticism offered at Aukana isn't affiliated to any group. It was set up by Alan and Jackie, so it's not in a Thai tradition or in a Burmese tradition. It is.
Yeah, but it's based very firmly rooted in the Buddhist tradition in terms of what we find in the Pali Canon, what the Buddha the earliest record we have of what the Buddha actually taught, including the Vinaya, which is the complete lowdown on Buddhist monasticism, of what's involved, how to do it, what the human factors and the human errors are involved in it, why there are rules, what the rules are, how to conduct oneself as a monk or a nun, and how the monastic order conducts itself. So there is a thorough explanation of it, and what Alan and Jackie did, which I maintain is I don't maintain it, it was my experience, was that they had the nous, the wisdom, to adapt what they could adapt for the sake of giving people the best possible supporting conditions for success in their meditation practice. So there are certain aspects of the Buddha's teaching which you cannot touch, you cannot change. They are eternal truths, Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, to condense it.
Yeah.
What you can change is the kind of robe that you wear. What you can change are adaptations to the way you do things to suit the conditions that you find where you set up that monastic order, and they understood the difference.
Yeah.
And to me that was really impressive for me. The idea, I would have gone, had there only been the option of traditional Thai monastic order, if that had been my only option, I probably would have gone down that route. But I found this other place with this other way of looking at the same thing, and had this capacity for this tremendous adaptation. Theravada Buddhism is naturally very conservative, so it was going out on a little bit of a limb, but I think it was fully justified, and I was strongly attracted to that.
Yes, and I suppose your relationship with Alan, if you're going to devote a period of your life to training, you have to have complete faith in the teacher who is going to be teaching you and taking you along the path.
I personally, I never had an issue with that. I had, from having read Alan's book, it just screamed at me, just shouted at me. It was just, this guy knows. And therefore, when I went to meet him, I met him. I think I'd done enough spiritual work by that point that when I met him, I was one of whom you could definitely say knew that he didn't know. There are a lot of people who think they know, but they're actually they don't know that they don't know.
Yeah.
I had reached a point where I really knew deeply that I had no idea what to do, how to do it, and therefore I was completely open. And so I went for a meeting with him, and within an hour I had agreed to come in on his terms.
Yeah.
For instance, one of the terms that I had to agree to was that it's not a vegetarian organisation. I was going to be eating the food that was being given to me because I was living off the generosity of the people that supported the centre, and I'd been a vegetarian for 15 years. And really, I think that really crystallised our relationship, because I said, well, I want to come in here more than I want to keep my views, and I just abandoned it.
Yeah.
And it made absolutely no difference to my meditative undertaking in anything. Giving up the view was the more important thing. So really, I was going in there and saying, yeah, I'll do whatever I have to do in order to because I wanted to free myself from suffering. It's not idealistic. I was just deeply, deeply unhappy with life and myself, and I wanted to be free of it. And I knew that the Buddhist teaching would work. I'd got enough under my belt to know that it worked.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to devote myself wholeheartedly to it, no matter what. So I went into the training with my eyes open, not knowing what I was letting myself in for. The worst thing I thought that could possibly happen is I enter into it and it's not what I thought it was, in which case I leave. What are they going to do? And it turned out it became a home.
Yeah. Was it what you thought it was going to be?
Well, it certainly wasn't. It wasn't anything to be to be worried about. It wasn't, because I was like coming in without any kind of relationship with the place. I didn't know the other monks. I didn't particularly know Alan. I was doing it on a basis of desperation. I didn't know what I was letting myself in for, but there are those concerns about, what's all this about? But I had all those concerns removed within a few hours. I just knew that the place was run on the right lines. I just knew it was a good place and a really, really good teaching.
Yeah.
And I felt safe. I felt entirely safe.